Hey everyone, Pupsker here. Today in the First Descendant, we're going to talk about weapon and Descendant modding so that you can do an absolutely insane amount of damage and so that you can survive and have a good time with your Descendants. So first and foremost, the list is all here. It's pretty easy. You can set up presets for your Descendant weapon reactors, everything here, up to 5 on launch for free. And then from there, you can look into your Descendant module clicking here and your weapon modules clicking here. Daily reminder to never use the same type of like weapon rounds, right? General rounds, impact rounds, high power rounds. Never use the same type of weapon rounds on the gun, like while you're playing, right? You do never want to have 2 general rounds or impact rounds, anything like that, because they share the same ammo type. So don't do that. For this, we're just going to take a look at our regular weapons and go over our Descendant mods after and just talk about how modding works in this game, the generals of it, etc. and so forth. Starting off with Tamer, we'll talk about how to generally build a lot of damage in the game, how the mods work. You can auto-equip recommended modules. This is going to work also depending on what you have upgraded, so not really the best thing to do, but it's not a terrible idea if you're being a little lazy. You can just yeet that on and it'll be like, hey, this is what most people like using on this gun. Is this a good build? Yes. Would it be better if I upgraded a lot of things? For sure. But this is what it spits out. And while this damage would still be good, it's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it still works. Your module additional settings are here. This has the assign module socket type. These are the crystallization catalyst. You assign a socket mod to one of your mod slots, and then that mod costs half the amount it usually would. So I put / there. My rifle reinforcement costs 8 instead of 16. Simple, easy, fun stuff. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Next up, we have the general max capacity. You can only use one of these on any item, or weapon or Descendant, and it just increases your module capacity. Those are really hard to farm. They're like endgame items when it goes to max capacity up, so they're called the energy, I think, reactors. Let me see. Yeah, the energy activators, sorry. And you need to farm all of those items over there in order to build it. It takes a little bit. It's more of an, upgrading farm, but it will take a long time. Just keep that in mind. Going over the mods for the Tamer in general and just weapons, firearm attack is just good. It's just straight damage. It is a good multiplier. Same with fire rate for guns that have a magazine, because some snipers are one shot and then they reload type of weapons and shotguns. So I don't think fire rate technically is amazing on those. But for anything with a magazine and ammo capacity, fire rate and rifle reinforcement, just damage straight up is good. Firearm attack and like attack speed, just straight up good. Electric and just general enhancements are very good, but you want to swap these out depending on what enemy you're fighting or what boss you're fighting. Enemies as well as bosses, you can check the area. They have weaknesses and strengths. So you click on a boss, it tells you what they are weak against. That's what you want to build damage-wise. And it also tells you what attack type they use. That's what you want to build defensively. And they also have a weak point type of burst, and weapons, if you didn't know, have like weak point attack type. So Tamer, it attacks with Crush, I think. That's that little that little thing right beside the machine gun name. That is Crush, that's its damage type. You can hit F1 and see that it is Crush damage type of 10%. Keep that in mind, means it does more crush damage. Action and Reaction's a really good mod because it adds a ton of firearm attack right now, but it also gives you a ton of recoil, but it seems worth it because damage. Weak point sight is also real good. This does not increase your DPS meter on the side here. This is after I've increased my DPS. This is before, right? Before. I also have rounds per magazine on right now. Don't worry about that. I could swap it out with better concentration, but it wouldn't be as good right now. So, weak point sight is a good DPS modifier and an increase, but you have to hit the enemy's weak point. So it doesn't account for anything on the DPS meter here. Neither does the elemental enhancement mods, such as like adds electric attack or adds toxic attack. Those are theoretical DPS increases, but they will not show on the DPS meter here. So if you're looking for a build for like, oh, big number, they won't do that. So swap those out for like crit, right? But hey, there's a ton of mod types. You'll want to increase and upgrade the bullet improvement enhancement types for sure. Critical firearm is good on a lot of weapons. This is the tamer. Critical increase will be better later, but it does have an overall low crit point if I check here of 10% and 1.6 crit damage multiplier. So while the tamer is good, it will not take the biggest advantage of DPS from these items. DPS increases can be anything. This is rounds per magazine. This is a theoretical DPS increase. If I take this off, I lose 23,000 DPS because you spend more time shooting instead of time reloading, and that is how you gain more DPS. So this does properly show up as a DPS increase, so keep that in mind. Some things won't show as DPS increases, even if they are, and some things will show. So just because you have a low DPS doesn't necessarily mean that your DPS is actually low, right? Going over everything, there are a ton of good mods in this game, and you'll slowly collect everything. A lot of mods will do one thing that you upgrade, such as this one. The fire rate increases a ton, but the firearm critical hit rate does not go up. So yeah, they're a little weird like that. And it will take you a lot of time to farm things up. Certain mods like this, really good, but a niche mod. While pulling the trigger, fire rate plus 4%, recoil minus 5%, and firearm attack plus 6%, every 1.5 seconds. In theory, this is actually really good on a gun like Tamer once you get the expand weapon charge upgraded. It shoots for a long time, it builds a lot of damage, and it starts building its fire rate up even more. It takes a small hit to DPS at first, but then quickly builds it up over the next second or two. Actually a good mod for weapons such as machine gun, and I think it would properly, no, it doesn't show any sort of DPS increase or decrease because it's such a like adding and subtracting mod. It can't really account for that, but there are a lot of mods like that. This one, for example, electric attack increase, fire rate minus. This is kind of like a Warframe corrupted mod. These are good if you're adding a lot of elemental damage for specific bosses. Of course, really good and really strong, such as like chill priority. This one will also increase the debuff modifier, such as like the reload time modifier, so keep those in mind. But everything is generally a DPS increase, just some things will not show it as a DPS increase. I could totally take off this weapon buff and this weapon buff and put other things on, like replace weak point sight with the pinpoint shot for a little bit more attack, and that'll show a big DPS increase. But if I'm not attacking weak points, it's probably not going to be a big DPS increase. So you have to think of things like that. I like to throw weak point damage on. For regular enemies, weak points are generally headshots. For bosses, the weak points are predetermined weak points. Easy, simple. That's how gun modding works, and that's how that happens. If I want to look at my other gun, you can see the Assassin's Edge, right? Really low DPS compared to this. It has lower DPS overall, but if we go into the tab for weapon info, you can see this bad boy has a 40% critical hit rate and a 2 times firearm critical hit damage multiplier. So this mofo is going to grow a lot more when I add on these two sort of crit mods, like better concentration. Holy shit, it adds like so much damage. Add that with better insight, oh my god, that'll be a huge DPS increase. It goes up a lot more when you add them together. That being said, I'm not modding that on right now because I'm still early mid-game and we need a lot more resources. This thing also has a much higher weak point damage multiplier than the Tamer. So, in theory, once this thing is fully modded, it can grow a lot better than something like the Tamer if you add on more weak point so that I could kill bosses or do headshots. It also has a ton of firearm attack base, so you could add that. More fire rate still helps so that you can shoot faster. Even if it's not an automatic, right, semi-auto or click fire, fire rate still helps you shoot faster, so keep that in mind. And then there's a ton of good mods. Check out everything and slowly look at it. This one's very good, for example. On weak point hit, firearm critical hit rate plus 8%, and firearm critical hit damage plus 12%. This is, in theory, insanely good. It won't show as a DPS increase, but it is an insanely good buff, and once you upgrade it, it's really nice, right? So you always want to look over. Also, the one thing I didn't mention is fire rate. When mods have words down here, it means you can only have one type of that mod. So this is an ATK, that's an attack mod, right? Pretty simple. if I throw on only ATK mods, I can throw on action reaction, but I cannot throw on pinpoint shot as well. I can't throw on slow art. I can't throw on antimatter rounds. So if mods are like that, you can only put one on at a time, right? Only one special mod, only one attribute attack, only one round per magazine. But certain mods will not have writing underneath, and you can just slot those in willy-nilly. There's not a one type limit. So, you know, not bad, not bad. Just keep that in mind if you can. Some weapons will have almost no crit, while other weapons will have insane crit. This one has almost no crit for a shotgun. 2% crit, 1.2x firearm crit damage multiplier. Do not bother building crit on a gun like this. You just be stupid to. Just straight up build everything else, because just crit won't do anything, right? 10% crit damage, okay, that's not bad. That can do, or 10% crit chance, that can do things, but if it has a 1% crit chance, terrible. The gun mods are dependent on the ammo type. So you have high power rounds, ammo type, impact rounds, general rounds, and then you also have the third round type. I just can't remember what it's called at the time. It is this one, the orange one. Nailed it. Tactical. Yeah, nope, I can't sort it by the ammo type. But yeah, there is a third type. Maybe it's impact. I can't quite remember. But that's how the gun modding works. And if you want to just straight up build a ton of damage, go for it. I don't have to have electric enhancement and weak point sight on. I could throw on something else, but this is just how you generally want to build. I'm building this. I swap this out when I want to do good damage to a different boss, and I keep weak point sight on because it'll do more damage to headshots, and it'll do to like regular enemies, and it'll do more damage to weak points on boss enemies. Once I upgrade things, I'll probably have to chuck expand weapon charge off, but I'll upgrade action and reaction. So hopefully that kind of counteracts and helps out. Either way, that is how modding on main weapons work. It's pretty normal, understandable. If anyone plays Warframe, you're generally used to that. You'll just want to experiment around, try different things out, and see how it goes. Each weapon's a little bit different, so keep that in mind. Some weapons, like the Tamer, you're probably going to want to put on multiple just attack mods, maybe 3 firearm attack mods, maybe even multiple fire rate type mods where you'll get bonuses there, but you probably don't want to try to go out of your way to kit it with a lot of firearm crit or a lot of weak point damage. You probably just want to hit it with like 1 weak point damage and like 1 or 2 crit upgrade mods. So remember to try to upgrade a weapon for its actual strengths, not its weaknesses, and then go from there. That being said, things are generally still really strong one way or another, so hopefully you'll find a way. For external components, there are sets and there are items. Try to get a good resistance or upgrade for those substats. I have fire resistance on that, I have chill resistance on this, I have electrical resistance on this, and I have toxin resistance on this. So I like having resistances as well as maybe some more defensive stats, but build however you want. Build however you choose. As well as the reactors piss me off because ultimate reactors need a specific ultimate weapon to be used, and that makes me sad. Either way, let's go to Descendant module upgrades. Descendants have a base skill module and like a, oh god, what's it called? Sub module. Sub modules will increase your module capacity as you upgrade it, versus normal mods, they decrease your like module capacity as you upgrade because they cost an extra module. But this one, no, this gives you module capacity, so keep that in mind. All characters have skill mods. Those are the general transcendent mods. They will upgrade your skills, make you stronger one way or another, and they're generally very good. But I have none for your boy Ajax yet. Even if I go skill module, it's not like this type. No, I don't have any, so it is what it is. Now, let's talk about how Descendant modding works. For most of the game, in early game, you'll just want to be defensive, right? You'll want shield, HP, and defense. Defense, I think, is just straight up good because it helps with shield and HP. I think they are both affected by defense. And defense for HP is good, or sorry, HP in general is good because you pick up HP drops from enemies to restore HP. Shield is good because your shield can be restored. If you hide, you can get more shield regen. It's just good defenses, okay? Now, when we're talking about skill damages, you want to make sure you add skill damages for your type of character. This is a non-attribute skill power increase. All of Ajax's skills are non-attribute. You can read it right above the name. Void Walk, it's a non-attribute and a tech skill. So non-attribute and tech will upgrade it, okay? There are a couple type of skill powers. There is skill power, which is just straight up like chill skill power increase. So skill power is is own type of thing, right? But you also have skill power modifier. So there is skill power, and then there is skill power modifier. I believe the way it works those are your two separate skill multipliers. So here you have skill power modifier times skill power, and then boom, that's the multiplier. Your skill power will get increased with multipliers and just base number, and your skill power modifier, same thing. So it's a little weird in how it words it, I know, and I don't like it, but hey. Remember to mod your character for skills that they actually use. You can do just base skill power and find something generic, such as all of the like fire specialist, toxic specialist. Those are good if you use that element, of course. Tech specialist, it would be okay on Ajax, but it doesn't use all of his, so I don't want to do that. Technician is just skill power modifier, so that is just an increase, okay? And attack is skill power, and you can see this is an attack mod and that is a battle mod. This is power increase, this is technician. These are two separate modifiers, so I could throw on skill power, and I could throw on skill power modifier. The difference is, this one, it's a battle one, skill power, and this one is non-attribute skill power. Since all my things are non-attribute, I'm throwing that on because I believe it has a higher upgrade, or sorry, higher power number at the highest level. But I'd have to take a look on that. But this one's pretty good. Skill power, tech skill power modifier. Right? So it'll increase the skill power of your total stuff and increase the tech skill power modifier. So yeah, it's fun like that. It's very fun like that, okay? There are two types of modifiers, and one calls itself a modifier and one is just power. I hate it, but that's how that works. So keep that in mind. When modding your descendants, build for their strengths, obviously. If you want to do more damage and more defensive on Ajax, you just build skill power damage, right? Because your shields, obviously, will also grow based off that because it's your skill power. Your skill power, better skill, all that jazz. Just remember to take a look at your individual skills, see how they build, right? HP, okay, defense, more HP in defense. I get on Ajax, better skill defenses I get with my barrier. The same with my last ultimate barrier. More HP and defense I get, the stronger the barrier is. And I think that all is a multiplier based off skill and skill multiplier and everything. So the math is sadly not all there. Like you cannot see the constant math increase or decrease based on upgrading your mods. And that's a little annoying. Makes theoretical math and calculations for like, is my damage good or my skill damage is good? Makes it a little hard, but it is what it is. Just try to remember that I think skill power and then skill power modifier, they're technically two different things and they multiply, yeah. So it's a fun thing. You can see how much firearm attack, skill power you have here. So that's why like a multiplier multiplies your skill power, and then your modifier is a multiplier of that, right? So it's a three-pronged step. You have the number for skill power times the skill power percent increase decrease times that, I think, by the skill power modifier. So it's annoying, but you know. Defense, it doesn't tell you what defense is, but the final line in defense, the maximum efficiency for effects that reduce defense is 80%. That means your defense can be reduced by maximum 80%, okay? That's what that means. People have been misinterpreting it, I believe, as you have an 80% damage decrease cap, but no, that just means that your defense, you see how it's 32.8k, it can get decreased 80%. So I could have about what, like 6k or like 7k defense at the lowest if I get debuffed enough. So yep, you have your max shield here, you have your max health here, and you have your max MP. So if you're wondering about base stats on your Descendant, you can see what they're at right here when you're playing the game. So that's not too shabby. You can see all of your applied values here as well. And you can always mess things around. But sadly, like you see how this non-attribute skill power is at 61.5%? In theory, that'll increase like the effectiveness of this as a base multiplier, 61.5% or so. You see how it's 578.1 for that skill power modifier? See if I take that out, yeah, it's still 578.1. So it is Not going to show there, so don't bother looking for it. Just hope to God it works properly and all the calculations take place. Either way, that's generally how you want to mod. There's a ton of good mods in this game for Descendants, for defenses and everything. Go through, slowly grinding it all out. There we go. There's a lot of good support tech, right? When defeating enemies with a charged sub-attack, the remaining cooldown of the charged sub-attack is minus 50%. If you want to do more melee, cool, but probably not great. This one, when attacking enemies with the 4th skill, skill cost minus 9%, skill power minus 10% for 10 seconds. Not really for me, but if you want something cheap. This one's awesome, mid-air maneuvering. You can just mid-air use your little hook shot. Awesome. This one's very interesting. This is for a shield build. Add max defense by 24.7% of max HP. Max HP is fixed to 1. And then added defense can also be increased by other beneficial effects. So this is a sick build if you want to do a shield-only defensive build. So interesting. There's Narcissism. While sprinting, skill cost minus 1% per skill cooldown, plus 1% every second. So that's probably good for stuff like Bunny, where you're constantly moving. Passionate Sponsor. When buffing or recovering an ally, firearm attack and skill power modifier plus 2% each time for 5s, up to 10 stacks. Okay, I think that's for 5 seconds or 5 stacks. Each time for 5 shots? Oh, either way, it's overall, like, pretty good buffs. I'm not 100% what the S technically stands for sometimes, if it's seconds, shots, or shield. I think it'd be seconds here, but yeah, hard to say for sure. Like 5-second buff every time. When using skill, consumes 4% of max HP and recovers 3% of max shield. Okay, so this is, I believe, much better if you're going for a shield build, but hey. And then uncharged sub-attack, defense plus 32 for 5 seconds, if you want to do a more defensive build. There's a ton of skills to look around and read through. I would definitely do that. There's things that are just important to note, like shields regen. Shields are good. HP does not regen unless you're out of combat, but you can pick up HP drops from enemies, as well as there's a lot of good mods that will increase your HP. So look around for whatever mods you have and make sure to build around those. The game has a ton of mods, and as always, you can go to Access Info to find how to get everything in the game, pretty much, and then just click through there. There's a ton of good HP mods, like HP Collector, where it's just, when defeating an enemy, it gets you a cooldown, or instantly recovers 9% of HP with a cooldown, but it can be upgraded, right? Awesome. You have a Collector mod, but you also have Shield Collector. When defeating an enemy, instantly recovers some shield. When defeating an enemy, instantly recover some MP. When defeating an enemy, instantly recover custom resource at 4% chance. So that's the thing. There's a lot of mods, once you start collecting them, that give really good boosts depending on what you're looking for. So early mid-game is just building for what you have. These are all the Transcendent mods. These are what you throw in the skill section, where it's really cool stuff sometimes. For Ajax, there's a badass defensive one, where it's, I think, body enhancement. Void energy is no longer available through Event Horizon, but increases your defense and shield proportionally to max HP. So you start getting yourself a huge buff here, and just going around there. So if you ever want to know how to mod and what you're looking for, just read through it, see what the modifier, or like see what it reads as, and try to go from there. Some things will show what your defenses are, or what the buffs are, and some things won't, right? Like, it'll show a theoretical DPS, or it won't. It'll show a theoretical buff, or it won't. Skill power and skill buffs, they don't show it, but you know it's there. So it can be a little annoying, but just make sure to pay attention to what you're throwing on, make sure the skills match up, and make sure everything makes sense. Descendants are all built differently. Some have better strengths and weaknesses. Some have better, especially if they're using different Transcendent mods, much better strengths and weaknesses and ways you'd want to build it. So there's a ton of different ways to build. Once you actually start increasing your module capacity and throwing on the catalyst item and like energy activators, once you start doing that and you can throw on more than maybe 5-6 mods, your builds are really going to start varying. But in the beginning of the game, you're probably just going to be more defensive, and that's just because you don't want to die. And it's a little boring, but it does take time to farm up. So either way, let me know what you think about the guide. Like if you want to support the channel. You can always use the Nexon First Descendant creator code Pupsker #8809 if you ever buy something and want to support the channel. You can also click the link and link your accounts in the description down below. So thank you all so much. Nice skin, noise, and I will see you another day. Cheers.